aboard!
Hey, what's up, everybody? You're listening to Cannabis Karaoke, where we ask you to grab the mic and tell your story. Get inside info from today's most interesting cannabis pioneers, and from the first note to the end of the song, listen up as you get to hear the stories of success on Cannabis Karaoke. All right, welcome to another episode of Cannabis Karaoke. You know, this is a weekly show. Sometimes it's an every other week show, but essentially what we're looking to do is find the gems in the industry, people that can share knowledge and information and build services that are going to allow brands to activate, find money. I'm kind of leading in my next guest, Brian Barbuto. He is the founder and CEO at Wrazel. He's got 40 plus years of experience in the financial industry, and he's tackling what I think is probably the hardest component of this space, which is the networking fundraising component. And I just want to say, so grateful. We had such a I think just pleasant talk before we get on the air to really kind of understand who we are. And it's amazing in 2 minutes how much you can learn about somebody. And I'm just super honored to have you on the show. And I'm anxious to share your message with our listeners. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you, Danny. It's great to be with you. And I enjoyed our chat thus far as well.
So, you know, if you Google your name, you got a lot of accolades. You know, you've been a busy guy. Tell us a little bit about, you know, break down Wrazel's benefits to the industry and really, you know, kind of explain how businesses can benefit and maybe a success story or two that you've already had. I mean, you guys have been, you know, doing this for a little bit, but share that with our listeners and kind of lay the groundwork of what Wrazel is and how it services the industry.
Sure, I'll do that. Wrazel is, our tagline is the business of cannabis, and our vision and purpose is to come alongside individuals and companies in the space to provide the leg up that they need, whether it be in aggregating capital to grow, to start or to expand a business, to build the relationships with one another that they seek in order to expand. It's to provide kind of a one-stop shop for everything that goes on in the space from the time that you get an idea and you're just fleshing it out. You go into our incubator plan, and we coach you and work with you to help you kind of bake the model. And when you're ready to find a site, we can help you with that too, because we've got a real estate vertical, and we've got professionals that can come alongside and help you with your site analysis and your site selection, and even your negotiation and acquisition, and then the ultimate financing. So the goal here, as I say, or the vision, is to really be a one-stop shop for everybody in the cannabis B2B world, because we really believe in cannabis. We think it's time that the endocannabinoid makes its way into the public and does all the great things that it's touting to be able to do. And with the legalization of recreational use, we want people to be able to grow their businesses and provide that source of commodity in a holistic and healthy and vibrant way.
Yeah, I noticed that you guys you've definitely been diversified, if you will, in your kind of vertical acquisitions, whether it be real estate, whether it be whatever. You know, when I listen to you, it's like, I go, yeah, this is exactly what the industry needs. How do you get their attention, man? Because I've done a bunch of different stuff as well in different, you know, verticals. And there's always this like kind of baseline expectation of what you can demand or expect, I guess. Let me rephrase the question. What is your thoughts on the cannabis space and trying to do business sometimes?
Well, it's a really interesting space. I get to meet really interesting people. Some of them are, you know, back in the day they were growing illegally, and they had the guts to do what they did, to make a living and to provide for their families the best they could. Some of them have moved into the space and got legalized and are crushing it, and don't have, let's say, the same kind of professional polish that sophisticated investors look for. So coming alongside them and working with them to help them kind of tell their story in a way that resonates with the Financial resources is one of the things that we like to do. And then we've got guys that come out of the bioscience, life science, and they've got a product that they believe could change the world, could cure cancer, can treat cancer, can treat epilepsy, and on and on. And these guys are a little wackadoodle in their social skills, but they're really, they're geniuses, and they're great people with a passion to do something really fabulous for mankind. And working alongside of them and helping them to get their model put together and to get their funding, it's a pleasure. I mean, it's a diverse group, and I'm enjoying it. I never imagined that the people would be as good-hearted as they are. What I find interesting about the space is product and service is top of mind, often more than profit. And I appreciate that. I like people who want to do a good job, and they're concerned with, the client or the customer's response to what they're doing, what they're providing, more than they're just counting their dollars. And that's been a really welcome pleasure and experience in dealing with many of these folks.
Yeah, I think the ones that are, I mean, I'm a big proponent of, spend the money to treat the customer right. And if you go out of business, then you didn't plan accordingly. But don't go out of business being restrictive or not trying to give your best service possible, because that's definitely the first way in this space. And it is, the networking component has always been done on the ground, whether it's been through cups or events, or if you go back to the, black market or underground market days where people were growing and selling cannabis, without legalization necessarily, there's always been a really strong network. And as we see the industry grow from those OGs, right, the people that don't know what the word data room means, like, do you have a data room so we can check your financials? And then they're like Googling it while they're on the phone. But, what are you seeing with regards to the new guard that's coming in? Like, you got these OGs that you're trying to help out and like connect the dots on. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's commercial real estate, maybe it's service-based stuff like you were saying about web analysis or whatever. What I hear when I hear Wrazel, the thing that comes to mind is more like a hinge pin, the hinge pin to your success. So how are you with this new guard that's coming in with, we call it the freshman class? How is oil and water mixing? How are you seeing that take place? And because those people are more expectant of a service like what you're offering than the industry that built itself is aware of the tool that you're providing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's a big question. It deserves a lot of detail in the answer. I'll try to tackle it. The facet of how these different parties interrelate and come together and do business, that is a process. They have a lot of commonality. One of the things that I pride myself on is being not only a problem solver, but a uniter, bringing people together. Used to back in the day, I did a lot of counseling as a parent, a home parent in my children's classrooms, and we get parents at odds with one another about something their children were doing that the other children didn't like. And the commonality is, hey, you guys love your kids. You love your kids. You don't love your children any more than they do, and vice versa. You have that in common. You love your children, and you want what is best for them. And in this industry, the same thing. You love your product, and you love your clients, and you want to do a good job, and you want to make money. And that commonality, it's a place where they can get to know each other and come to understand each other. Because it's true that they're basically came out of two school systems. A guy who came through the college system and really became educated about business, and the guy who went out and did it by his bootstraps. And they do have commonality, and when they begin to understand where they meet one another, they can do business together. And so that hasn't really been a big challenge for us. We see that it is a challenge at times, but when we bring them together, we bring the parties into the deal room, and we start with the commonality, we get where we need to be. The other part of your question about how do you tell your story and how do you get out there, same thing. If you do what you do and you do it well, the word it spreads. You don't need to. We at Wrazel, we have a small team of less than 20 people right now. well, actually, we're just getting ready to top over 20, but we're able to do one thing well at a time, and we open it and we close it and we do it well with the thought that if we perform and our customer appreciates our service, they're going to tell others about what we do. And we began to hold events and share our story with people in the events, but more importantly, let them tell their own stories and be there to facilitate their storytelling. And it indirectly has allowed people to see what we are and what we attempt to do and how we attempt to do it. They like it. And as a result, the company is really beginning to scale. And it's exciting from the perspective that we think that we're doing something that's beneficial. We're not just out to crush it, if you will, to be the next big thing, but rather we want to do a great service in the cannabis space. One of my own investors said to me one day, and I thought it was really poignant. She said, cannabis knows that it's cannabis time. And I thought in a way that it was a silly statement, but then as I drove away from our conversation, I thought about it. It was kind of profound. It's the time for cannabis. We've got it represents and has the potential to be a lot of things for a lot of people, and it's time. We've got states every month. We've got a new state that's legalizing. It's inevitable that Fed will legalize, and it's going to be a global commodity and a global enterprise. And I think that it's time that it's treated with the professionalism that it deserves, and there's room for everybody.
So I think that whole statement was really indicative of what I think will be, we look back on the golden era, or we look back on the whatever. As you look back in history, there's periods of time that people that have been associative to something that took place, and I think we are going to see this. I tell people all the time, it's a cannabis revolution. It's not just a mission or an opportunity or a revolt. It's a revolution. You got countries coming on board, and you're very right. It is so many things to so many different people. You look at certain brands and you wonder why there's certain success with those brands. And well, they've understood who their niche is, who they want to market to, how they want to posture their brands, and they're working on becoming a brand. I think the coolest thing that we both get to share in is that we're still really early. This space is still kind of figuring it out. I mean, we got upwards of 30 states that either have it on the books or medicinal rec, and it's only a matter of time before it continues forward. Our partners to the south, our partners to the north, those countries. Canada's got a pretty robust market. Mexico's coming on here pretty soon. So it's going to be inevitable that every country is going to want a piece of this pie. When you sat down, you've done a lot of things with a lot of vision. That's sometimes good and that's sometimes bad. Being a visionary, I always tell people, is a bit of a curse, because the problem is you can be so visionary that you're so early that by the time you tap out, the thing that you brought to the market is just getting going. So it's like you always have to kind of pace yourself. And that's something that I kind of, when I'm doing a little bit of consulting in the space, I do business consulting as in general, just from the years of my failures that I can share. And, one of the things I always tell people is like, you got to have some patience, and you just got to, even though this thing feels like there's just gold falling out of the dirt, you still got to kind of pick and choose your battles. And I really feel like, the next step to all these shows, and, gosh, I'm sad to see some shows are going away, but at the same time, I'm glad, because like you didn't know which show to go to. You go to one show one week and you just had a phenomenal experience. And then the next show you go to, you're walking it and it's done in 2 hours, and you just spent the same amount for both shows. The next step, I really do feel, is this B2B experience and this opportunity to network. Go through a little bit of the process, like with maybe you don't have to expose who it is, but like explain like people coming on, the process they go through. Like give us a little bit of insight on like what it's like to be a member of the Wrazel platform.
A Wrazler, as we like to call
them. The Wrazzler. You need to make shirts like that. Yeah, I'm a Wrazzler, and you just give them out to people that join.
Actually, the hoodies are on the way.
Oh, I love it.
And the jackets and the hats. The Wrazzler.
Hey, dude, swag for some reason never gets old. People love swag.
We made one up as a joke, and people liked the idea of being a Wrazzler so much that we have gone into mass production. It's kind of comical.
I think it's a great. I mean, that's part of, unfortunately, being afflicted with visionary, kind of capabilities is you starts as a joke, but then it turns into a reality pretty quick.
As long as the people and what's in their best interest is top of mind,
Sure.
things work. That's when things work.
Well, it sounds like you guys are having fun on top of it.
Yeah, we are. We have a blast at all the events. Love meeting people, hearing their stories. Loved, I was on the phone this morning with a gentleman, extremely intelligent, extremely capable, and extremely lost.
Right.
And we spent 30 minutes, and at the end of 30 minutes, he was thanking me over and over again with accolades. Finally, somebody understands what I'm doing. Finally, I have a place that I can go and I can figure this out and I can get to the next level. And that's really rewarding for me. I mean, and as is for the rest of the entire Wrazel team. So our process is pretty simple. You come to us with a vision, with an idea, with a fully baked deck, whatever, and we work with you to position it into the market, and we work with you to get the funding that you need in order to launch and to move forward. And there is so much activity. You were talking about globalization a little bit ago. 20% of my calls are from people out of the country, and I've got translation barriers that I'm having to navigate. We've got people sending us emails that we're having to translate, because the language is different. It's really been interesting, but it is a global opportunity, and it is scaling because the endocannabinoid has so much potential. We're tapping into CBD, but there's hundreds of others that are going to do amazing things. And I sometimes wonder if we're not in the pioneer stage of what in 20 or 25 years from now we'll look back and go, never in our imagination did we, in our wildest imagination, did we think that we were actually bringing products into the marketplace that would change lives the way these products have, and that would touch lives and impact people's health and stability like they have. I've lost friends to cancer, as an example, and watched them suffer, and introduced, cannabis toward the end of their process of navigating through that horrible condition, and saw a glimmer and a period of time where they were lucid, cogent, confident, capable, communicative, and ended their lives with dignity and with confidence that other people sometimes don't get the opportunity to. And it was because of cannabis. I mean, it was the relief, the pain relief made them, capable of getting off the morphine, and they were able to actually have conversation before they passed. And it was a beautiful thing to see and experience. And to me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And I went to a party, an event that was more of a cannabis party than it was an event a couple of months ago. And, back in the day in high school, like probably everybody else, smoked a lot of weed, ate a lot of hash, did a lot of things to get high, and partied up, got in a lot of trouble, was a wild child, and kind of gave all that up in my early 20s at a kind of a turning point in my life. And I thought, okay, I'm going to refrain from that kind of activity. But I went to this event and I walked into a plume of smoke. I looked at my wife and I said, babe, we're going to get high. And we did. And we had a blast. And we neither one of us had been high in 25 or 35 years. And we got high. Well, here's the interesting thing. We had to travel out of town for the event, and we were in a hotel. We got to the hotel and went to sleep. And I slept for 8 hours, which is something I very rarely do because I've got two really bad legs, two bad knees, and I'm usually in a lot of pain. And I had no pain. And so my wife said, hey, we've got to start getting you a product that you can smoke. And so we have. And I've done that. I've started treating myself with CBD and a little bit of THC, and it's made a huge difference in my everyday life. So I'm a believer from every facet of it, and I'm just so excited to be in the industry. I really am.
Yeah, I think and that's amazing. That it's funny. I've been smoking weed since I was about 13 or 14 when I found my dad's stash. In fact, by about 16, when he was teaching me how to drive, we were in a little session. He goes, "Hey, you been stealing my marijuana?" And I was like, at that time I was selling 2 for $5s at the store or at the school, like just as extra. You just kind of like, you find it, you do a little bit, then you keep doing it, and pretty soon it's gone, and you're going to get caught. But it's always kind of helped me with my pain. And, obviously diet goes along with that, inflammation. I think the plant's helping us learn how to better program our bodies. And there's, to your point you made earlier, I went to a conference where it was all just medical people, and I was a keynote, and I was the only person there without a PhD. Like everybody there was, I mean, the main guy from Israel was there. I can't remember his name right now. Like it was a heavy conference, like from the medicinal side. And the things I learned, I went to almost every panel I could, and there was a lot of them, and it was a really well attended event. It was at UCLA, and that really opened my eyes at that point, because I got in to change the stigma. I had my own reasoning. Wife had a brain tumor, dad passed from opiate addiction, my partner Tommy Chong got rectal cancer, and I looked at it all and I just saw cannabis space. I'm leaving the MBA and I'm going into this, and I'm just going to dive right in because I want to educate and I want to grow. But your point of looking back, the things that are still yet to come out and the things that your network is going to help become facilitated, I mean, that has got to be part of your vision.
It's a very big driver, and these, like I said, these guys that come in and with these products, they're doing trials and tests, not FDA type trials, but their own trials, and it's really, really compelling. I mean, it's exciting stuff. And again, they don't come in here with pro formas, we're going to make $1 trillion, but rather we're going to make a profit. We're going to change lives.
Right.
We're going to impact lives in a good way. I got to see a video of a boy with autism, who in the video they showed a series of videos at different ages. And basically, the first 7 years of his life, he sat on and self-soothed by slapping himself in the head. And after the treatment of this particular product, he began to settle down and moved into video footage where he was calling his mom mommy. And I mean, I watched it and I literally cried.
I was gonna say, you better stop. I'm gonna start crying.
It really, I went home to my wife and I said, oh my gosh, I mean, I'm so excited about this company.
Yeah.
I can't wait to help them because they're going to impact lives in such a great way. So it is way more than what the average person thinks. And we have these events and people come, and basically what I hear at the events is, oh my God, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I learned tonight. I can't believe the caliber of people I met. And I meet people that are just fabulous people. And then I hear their background. I go, wow, man, this guy was black market, breaking the law, living on the edge, 12 years, barely making it, but providing for his family. And now he's crushing it. I'm not going to share who he is because I would let him disclose that privacy rather than do it for him. But it was a great story, and it very exciting to be working with him, and very excited to see him succeed and to see him bring his product to market, because it is very impactful.
Well, and that, I won't want to beat a dead horse, but we know that the value of networking, if done properly, only exponentially increases and becomes more concentrated, right? That means your main goal, in my mind, at least in where I sit, is that Wrazel needs people joining. Wrazel needs people activated within the industry, within the software, and you need transactions to take place. Talk a little bit about your growth right now. Like when you started, like what have you met expectations? Are people embracing your vision? Are you feeling like that you're actually, I mean, it sounds like it. I'm kind of leading you into a question, but I really want to hear like the efficacy of what you laid out, right? And then how that's activating with your audience.
We have exceeded expectations threefold. We've been really surprised at how fast we've been able to gain traction, and off market and offline. We've made a number of introductions that have resulted in funding that really brought it home for 3 different parties, and we're just really grateful to the process and the people that did what they did. And so from a scaling standpoint, and from a are we on target, we have gone way beyond where we thought we'd be. And I don't want to disclose some things about our future planning, but we are growing and expanding our footprint and making our services available throughout the country in a very unique way. And you're going to see a much bigger presence of Wrazel in the next 6 months. People are going to be shocked. They're going to say, "How did that happen?" Well, it's happening because we've got great people who believe in our vision and believe in our process, who are joining us all over the country and even out of the country. So we think we're onto something that's going to be a very successful outcome for us and the people that we engage. And we're not having any difficulty tracking people. The phone and emails are blowing up daily. It's pretty comical.
Well, and especially at a time where, and congratulations, by the way, that's really good to hear. And I think even more so at a time where more and more people are now making that. Like, I coached Little League this last year, and I must have had like a half a dozen dads come up to me. "Hey man, I know you're in the weed biz, bro. How do I get in?" And you're just like, wow, like, I don't know. Maybe you should have started a while ago, or you can write me a check. There's those two ways that you can do that. But even more so now, your resources are such a commodity, because as people are coming in, that freshman class with money, with intelligence, maybe a cannabis, aficionado or user, but not in the space, doesn't have those networking components, that can't rub shoulders, can't walk up to Tim Blake or whoever. I'm just dropping names, but you're going to be that Sherpa for them. I want to pivot though, because I think we've established that if you're not on Wrazel already, you're probably blowing it. The thing I want to hear from you, and this is really kind of going to dive into your background a little bit, is how, so the funding bubble for cannabis, right? I don't want to say it's popped, but it's definitely leaking air. How do you, this is where I feel Wrazel will really be beneficial, because it's going to cut out all the BS and really make laser focused opportunities manifest for people. What do you see? What's your hedge like on the space? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Ups and downs are going to happen, but where are we going in 2020?
Well, you addressed that bubble. I don't think it's leaking. Definitely, we've got to account for that. This high valued IPO model has really bit a lot of people in the backside, and I don't think it was done, let's say, with willful abandon or deceitfully, but expectations were maybe unrealistic. That's adjusting itself. It's just a time issue. It'll, over time, cure itself. The CBD products that are on the horizon are getting traction. They'll continue to get traction. They'll prove themselves effective. That is at the very early stage of really beginning to scale. More states will legalize. Eventually, the federal legalize. Investors are already beginning to jump into the space because the investment opportunities are just too good to pass up, and B, because sophisticated investors see that the industry is going to make another transition later when big pharma and tobacco really make their play, and they will, and it'll happen, and people don't like to talk about it. They like to pretend it's not there and it's not going to happen, but it is. They're already involved in the space behind the scenes. They'll get more involved in the space. They've got the supply chain that the rest of us don't have, and the early exit from a lot of these little startups is going to be very robust, and I think the industry will begin to be more indicative of other industries, more stabilized and more accepted. It won't be a frowned upon industry or let's say a misunderstood industry. It'll be a credible industry that people recognize, just like all the others. And so the people who get in now, it's not too late. This is, in my opinion, the time to jump in. People that get in now in these small startups and in these companies that have a good brand, a good product, those are the companies going to be poised to make very profitable exits in roll-ups, and that is going to come in time with the federal legalization. I'm guessing that it's going to happen sometime in the next 2 to 4 years.
I mean, you're already seeing people go to the stock exchange in Canada, and you got some people that are starting to take runs at the New York Stock Exchange, even though they may be penny stocks or over the counters. Um, these guys that are out there that have been kind of the first people to take the risk, how does that impact? And this isn't having to do with Wrazel, this is just me picking your brain. How does that impact future funders, though, right? Like they're seeing the likes of Canopy, wobble, and people getting in trouble for backdooring cannabis out or not passing regulations, and certain chain of red themed cannabis dispensaries stock just continuing to drop, like people laying off people. Doesn't that kind of create some sort of a feather in the space a little on people's bullishness on wanting to invest?
It does, but the reality of what the opportunity is as it translates from small industry to big industry. People, sophisticated investors, let's say, that have invested in commercial real estate, they understand the translation. Uh, Oil and gas, same thing, same translation. So I think, as I've had conversations with many, many different kinds of investors, there's an awareness that this is going to transition, and the big IPO issue and the big companies like the Canopy that's kind of wobbling, it, they're going to survive. They're going to figure it out, and it's not going to be the black eye. It's not going to be doomsday. And even if they were to fail, it wouldn't be the end of anything. It would just be the beginning of something else. I mean, a forest has got to burn down in order for a better forest to come back up, and it will. And it's happening uh, in the mind and the hearts of these investors who have committed. I talked to a gentleman, let's see, it's been 5-6 weeks. He came to one of our events. He said, I was interested in a particular sponsor, so I just, that's in your platform. So I came, and then I heard him present, and I was about 90% there. And then when you closed and you explained what your vetting and underwriting process looks like, I decided to make the commitment, and I wanted to shake hands with you and say, good job, because your vetting of my guy gave me the confidence that I'm committing $1 million to him. And I think that understanding that there is real depth of understanding in his model, that we've in that particular case, we'd really thoroughly evaluated the model and was able to report about what we thought. And we, by the way, we don't get involved in selling the security. We just introduce people to one another. We're not taking success fees. We're not broker dealers. Our inspiration is not trying to make money and getting projects funded, but rather help people who want to get funded, tell their story to people who want to invest, and then giving the investors the ability to do their own vetting and their own underwriting, evaluate what we've done to be able to make an intelligent buy decision. That's all we do, and we don't get paid any success for doing that. And so we're kind of neutral, and there is a way to underwrite, like licensure, for instance. People get concerned, investors that is, get concerned that they're going to invest in this particular business, and the guy is going to do something dumb, like take something out of the back door and sell it across state lines. They're going to lose their licensure, or they're going to break the law somewhere else, and they're going to lose their license. And there are now companies in place that we're working with who do licensure compliance, and that requires them to evaluate all crop production, manufacturing, distribution, every ticket, everything in the front door and out the back door. And it's all monitored to be sure that the compliance is adhered to, and that everybody, including the business owner, is protected against a problem with a licensure issue. So the process for maintaining stability and monitoring things is being implemented, being perfected, and being implemented over and over and over. And it's just going to get more and more sophisticated, like as is the case in other industries, and investor concerns will be mitigated.
Yeah, I mean, you made a comment about the forest burning down in the beginning part of that discussion, and we all saw the .com bomb happen, and then look where Silicon Valley's at now. Like no one could even imagining that happening again. And I think that cannabis is going to have some failures. It can't all be pie in the sky. There is going to be people that, I mean, it's rare that people that are first to industry have a high level of success or finish, if you will. Usually the first are the first to go, and it's the second, third, and fourth that are coming through. But really what Wrazel does is it provides a safe environment, slightly vetted, at least from communications and transparency, to have those conversations and not just have them on the floor of a trade show. To be able to really kind of lurk or check out somebody and like whether you're an investor or you're the person taking the investment, you can do a little bit of research on each side. And I think really the power of what you guys are doing is the kind of, so many people say we want to be a lot of things to people, and I always get a little bit like kind of be careful of that shiny object, like for us, I've always just stayed focused on, kind of making sure we're delivering content to as many doors as we can, and we stay out of the manufacturing of the product. We stay out of like any of it. You need someone to build videos, we send them to somebody. And so, but inherently, because of what you're building, like it's more like a resource set that's available to everybody. You're not really trying to be everything to everybody. You're really trying to be
Right.
a resource set to everybody, right?
Right. That's well said. And Danny, I gotta say, I really appreciate that you did your diligence on the company before the interview. It's clear to me that you really understand our vision, understand our purpose, and thank you for articulating it as well as you have. Because in some respects, you've done a better job of that than I have.
Well, you're going to get in the same position where you become, I'd say Switzerland, but we're really just kind of like, like imagine one person just sits at a bus stop and all these people are coming through the bus stop constantly sitting down talking to you. That's what inadvertently, that's the resource we have. We ended up talking to thousands of brands over the last 5 years. We've talked to thousands of dispensaries. We've talked to service providers. We've gotten to see from like almost like an inspection team who has no dog in the race. We get to kind of see and hear things. And when I see things come up, I'm a perpetual B2B guy as well. So my clients that we work with or people that ask me questions, I have a hard time not giving references if I feel like I have a resource for that. And I have seen a couple other people jump up to try to, look, raising funds. Let's just make this statement right now. If you're in the cannabis business, unless you're extremely wealthy, unless you're Dan Blitzerian, you're going to be raising funds frequently. And the hardest things about raising funds is that denial component and that kind of failure component. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I pitched only to be told no thank you. And when then these kind of marketplaces pop up, but then like you were saying earlier, there's always this like kind of underhanded like transaction that makes you kind of feel weird. So then you kind of back off of it, and it kind of loses its allure, right? And so when you guys came on the scene and I was watching you, and I talked with Dino, obviously we have a relationship, and that kind of came to light, and I was like, these guys actually are doing it the right way, and they need people to know about them. And they need people to know about them in a positive fashion of not like, hey, we're going to stick a hand in your pocket while we get you money, but we're going to actually facilitate. And then the benefit for that is that the reputation of what you're doing continues to evolve. And, you've evolved quickly. And I think people are going to be surprised in 2020 with what you guys are going to be rolling out. I'm excited to see it.
Gosh, Danny, thank you so much. Appreciate all the things you've said. Couldn't have said it better.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about with Wrazel, or did I miss anything?
I just like to invite people to come to Wrazel with the attitude of exploration. Look at what we have to offer and let us know how we can help, and we'll do everything we can.
So is that, we didn't ever cover this, but is there a fee to join? I mean, I'm leading you a question, but is like if someone wants to check out Wrazel, is there a way to do it without having to pay anything?
You got to pay your electric bill to run your computer or your phone. That's it.
Perfect. So people, if you're listening, when you're listening, go check out Wrazel, and we'll include that in the little mini blog that we put out with the podcast. What are your social handles that we can have people go follow?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I will find them. I think it might just be at Wrazel, but I will put that in the blog as well. My bad. I should have had that ahead of time. Man, I really did genuinely enjoy our conversation before we got on. It was kind of right to the heart pretty quickly. And, I think that you guys have an amazing service and tool set for the space. I'm excited to be able to interview you and also kind of run alongside and hopefully get that wheel rolling as fast as we can get it rolling. And it's been a pleasure today, man. And I just want to say I expect to see bright things out of you guys in the future.
Danny, thank you so much. It's been a great interview, and I think that the fact we started on our roles as fathers, I'll just say that it's been my greatest pleasure to be a dad. It's been the thing that's been the most rewarding for me. And although I'm not father to anybody but my own children, the people that come into the company, we take them on like family, and we work alongside of them much like you would with your family. And so it's a family environment here, and we put people ahead of profit.
Wow. So. What a great way to kind of wrap our interview up. So again, everybody, we had Wrazel in Deep Effect here, and just really stoked to have had the chance. Again, I know I've said it a few times, but you just can't. They don't make them like you very often, Brian. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and look forward to seeing you at MJ Biz or Emerald Cup or wherever we bounce into each other next.
Great, Danny. Thank you for your time, and you're doing a great job and a great service for the people, and just keep on doing what you're doing. It's fabulous.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. You have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye.
That's a wrap. Thank you for listening to this edition of Cannabis Karaoke, another kick-ass podcast about all things cannabis. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and our website, cannabiskaraoke.tv. And if you or someone you know would like to be on the show, please hit the book your interview button on the right. Cannabis Karaoke. Grab the mic and tell your story.